This week on the TT Show, Apple is slated to unveil its new lineup of M4 Macs in less than a week. Valve confirms it's working on a Steam Deck 2. AMD confirms its upcoming X3D chips. Sony's secret weapon with the PlayStation 5 Pro. A new Minecraft-style MMO is being tested by Nintendo. Ubisoft disbands a development team. Footage from the unreleased Pokémon game surfaces, and an anonymous hacker has been charged with seeking to kill after launching DDoS attacks at hospitals. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the TT Show. My name is Jak Connor. I'm a hardware editor over at Tweaktown, and today I'm joined by my co-host,
Kosta Andriotis, gaming hardware editor at Tweaktown.
We are back with another jam-packed week of news. How are you going, my friend?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, even though I got like a stack of things to review, I just
Do you want to just quickly go through them, or?
Oh, I don't know. I got like it's by stack I mean like a proper stack. I've got like multiple keyboards. I've got a keyboard that I'm building from scratch this weekend.
That's sick.
Because Sean,
yeah,
he sent it to me. Like he's repping this brand. He said, "Would you be interested in doing it?" I'm like, yeah. So it's actually quite cool. So like it's come together like. You get like the full shell. It's like a pretty chunky aluminium, so a really premium sort of shell. Mm-hmm. And then you got like the PCB, and then you got multiple layers of foam. Then you got like these stabilizers. Then you got the switches, and then you got the keycaps. So it's like I have to assemble it all, which is going to be fun because it's kind of like Lego. Like they sent me a document and stuff as well. Like here's a step-by-step guide. A lot of it doesn't require screws or anything like that. It's actually quite.
That's good.
It's actually quite. Just going through it, like it's like kind of like when we saw like the motherboards being made at MSI, I was like, this is cool because like you got the board and then you put like these stabilizers in that clip in, and then which the stabilizers is basically to hold the switch, and then you got the foam, and then you got the switch, and then that clips in as well. And
that's interesting. If you can, maybe just do a short video, and then like once it's built and stuff like that, we can.
That's the thing.
Show the listeners that you can describe it on the podcast because, that's like I think the motherboard analogy is perfect there. It's like I was like, of course I appreciated motherboards, but then after you see them get made, you're like, oh wow. So I can see that exact same thing happening for keyboards as well.
Yeah. And the whole DIY thing has blown up in the keyboard space. Like a lot of like big keyboards now, like even from the big brands, like obviously more on the premium end, is they've got like hot swappable switches. Like basically like if you take the keycap off, you can actually pull out the switch and replace it. So like they're designed now to be more like modular and sort of like if you got a really good keyboard now, like a good mechanical one, you should be able to. It's almost like you can repair it like a PC. Like if there's
and that's good.
If one key, if your spacebar is giving you trouble, like you can take it out, maybe replace the switch or look at the stabilizer or like whatever the case is. Like you can do that. Like and that's a very small percentage of people would do that for a keyboard. But the fact that we've got to this place is actually pretty cool. So I'm keen to jump
it's cool. That. I mean. Keyboards have been quite stagnant for some time. I think it's only in recent memory that we started to see those.
Oh yeah.
Like those companies that were rolling out that software. I can't remember what it is called exactly. I think we covered it on the show, but pretty much gave you like you could strafe back and forwards.
Yeah, the rapid trigger thing. It's a part of like most keyboards now, where it's basically like the way it works is that like like with both keys or switches pressed down like your WACD SD like you don't have to like alternate between them. You can just have them both pressed and just like raise the one that you can just like do this sort of like rapid raise and release because of like the switches are so the actuation points are so low that you can so it's effectively cheating in some way. Like that was the problem with that. Like
it depends
people, like,
on the game, because
it gives you like a performance advantage. But then, I mean, let's be real, like having that keyboard's not going to make me a great Call of Duty player.
No, but it might make you slightly better
harder to hit
than just the average guy. But yeah, let's keep it on the hardware. We have a massive show coming up for you guys. We're covering a lot of hardware, and then we're going to be touching on some games that have leaked / development teams have been disbanded, and then we're going to probably sprinkle some other news in there and finish off with some serious hacking. But let's start off with Apple. We should preface this that this is not official news. Apple has not said what they are doing, but according to a very reliable source from Bloomberg, Mr. Mark Gurman, who is a let's say decorated Apple leaker, predictor, insider source, call it what you want. It's all unconfirmed news at this point. However, his track record is like pitch perfect at this point. So Apple is slated to be preparing behind the scenes its new lineup of M4 Max, and these are something that I think we've touched on the show previously. So incremental upgrades from previous M generations. And you're probably wondering, is this generation going to be a massive change? No. According to Gurman, it's hardly any change at all. How besides the Mac Mini, and I'll get to that eventually. So, according to Gurman, who wrote in his Power On newsletter, which comes out every week, that talks about Apple and what they are working on behind the scenes. The new lineup will include a 14-inch MacBook Pro, and that will come with a standard M4 chip, another 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro with an M4 Pro and M4 Pro Max chips. So we'll have variants of the different. This is, again, no surprise. This is pretty cut and dry for Apple here. An iMac with a standard M4 chip, and that will go all the way up to, what I'm guessing is the Pro Max. Maybe they won't be unveiled when Gurman says they will be, but eventually we'll probably see those variants. Now, here's where it does change it up a bit. There will be a redesigned Mac Mini. It's going to get smaller, which is kind of cool to see. I have a M1 Mac Mini, and it's already like ridiculously small for the amount of power.
They're basically like mini PCs, right? Like they've just gotten more and more. Yeah, mini PCs have gotten impressive.
They're not. It's like a knock, man. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Like to be able to get that amount of. I think because it's that's the system that we edit this podcast on. It's quite good for the price and considering the power that you get out of it. So I think I spent at the time about 1,200 Australian. So what, that'd be like 950-ish USD or something like that.
Yep.
And what we can edit almost 4K videos at 30 FPS on that system because we've got 3 camera angles at 1080p. So that's almost 4K. And yeah, the timeline does chunk a little bit because we've got some, I mean, it's a heavy load given the system. I think it's more so like a 1080p kind of editing bay if you're strictly going to use it for that. But we do push it a little, but you know, it works. As for the M4s, like the later M generations, they would be able to handle production of this podcast, no worries whatsoever. Like especially with the optimization with like Final Cut and Final Cut being an Apple software, it's like they've really, really tweaked it. It's really impressive stuff compared to Intel's when they were running Intel's chips. As for the M4s, so we're going to get a redesigned Mac Mini. Not sure on the exact specifics of what that will entail. If I was to guess, more USB-C ports. Like that's pretty much it. Like we've reached a stage in the industry, and I think this was reflected by the motherboard coverage that we did when we did the motherboard tour. A lot of the motherboards now are just rocking USB-C ports with a limited number or a progressively limited number of USB-A ports.
Yeah, that's right. Like the balance has shifted. Like some of the high-end boards have 6 USB-C ports versus 5, traditional ones or USB-A. Yeah, which is good because the balance is shifting because most devices are now USB-C. And
yeah, and it's about time.
yeah, and like even on like the peripheral side, like if you got like a keyboard or like a mouse, like if you got a wired device, like usually, or even a headset for charging, like on the actual device side, it's all USB-C now. But like on the actual PC side, there's still like USB-A just because the shift hasn't like fully taken place. Because like the problem with PC like peripherals is that like, you know, everything else is USB-C, like your phone is USB-C, like everything else is USB-C because, you know, you're going to plug it into a charger or whatever the case is. But on PC, like it's USB-C on one side, USB-A on the other because motherboards are still predominantly USB-A. And that shift will happen once we see more and more boards with just going straight USB-C.
Yeah, completely right there. It feels like we're in a bit of a limbo state at the moment where we're between two standards. But, you know, we got Thunderbolt 5 on the horizon now, and we're going to be sticking like the USB-C.
Do you need more than Thunderbolt 4, really? Like, what's that? That's like 80 gigabits per second. Right?
Thunderbolt 4 is 40 gigabits.
40.
That's like, what are you doing?
That's like full...
This is NASA speeds, dude. What are we doing? Are you beaming a movie from Mars?
At that you pretty much have to be using it just for display, right? Like there's no other.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
maybe it's display, and if you're running it like maybe a home setup like yours or something like that, where you're like that massive ultimate entertainment system, and for whatever reason you were moving data from the NAS to another PC.
Up, like 10 terabytes just backing up. Do it in a couple of minutes.
Anyway, so yes, these new Mac Minis, I would say, are probably going to come with more USB-C ports. And that's good because Apple doing this pushes the standard closer towards a unified USB-C adoption. And look, did Apple want to do this? No, the EU told them to. And they went, yes, EU, we like selling products in your location. It's quite
continent.
nice. We make some money there. So they're like, okay, EU, we will do the USB-C. And according to Gurman, this refresh will happen with this USB-C refresh will happen with the Apple accessories as well. So we're going to see a Magic Mouse. Whether the mouse is actually magic.
Were they all Lightning?
What was that, sorry?
Were they all previously their Lightning?
Oh, yeah. All Lightning, yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought it was just like the phone charger stuff. I didn't realize.
No. Apple did Lightning everything. That's why Daddy EU was like, hey, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
That makes sense.
Cut it out. That's enough, Apple. That's enough.
That's when you need big government to step in.
Yeah, and you know what? I agree with them. The only reason that they were doing Lightning was to bolster their own sales, and Lightning was essentially a inverted USB-C. So, like, what are we doing here? It's like Apple's just trying to make a pretty penny. So EU's like, no, USB-C needs to be a unified charging thing across the entire thing, and they had to shift their whole company to do that. And you know what? I'm here for it. For it.
The M4 chip, that's only in the iPhone currently.
Yes.
Is that correct? And the iPad.
Oh, no, and yes, and the new iPad mini. I think Anthony wrote a story about... so for those that don't know, just a little bit of background on the M chips. They're all developed by TSMC, which are the pretty much the genie inside of the bottle.
For every bit of hardware.
For every bit of great hardware that is out there. And we're down to 3 nm on this, which is just a mind blowing. I don't even know what's happening, really. Like, honestly.
Yeah, like 2 nm.
It's so small that it's unfathomably small. As for when these new M4 devices will be announced, Gurman is saying that Apple is hosting an event where it's inviting media and creators on the 30th in LA, and that might sound like a keynote, but unfortunately it's not. So these creators are getting, guessing scheduled times with Apple, because Gurman said that they're going to be meetings. So, and they are happening. Some of the meetings are happening before 10 a.m., which is the typical start for a Apple keynote. So what can we expect then? Videos released to Apple's YouTube channel of the new MacBooks and a press release. So this is a really soft refresh here. So performance estimations within 15%. Like this is again nothing special here.
This is the normal now, right? Like the CPU side, like even on Intel and AMD, like latest generations, the uplift is minimal. The efficiency gains are there, but like we're getting incremental. Like I'm like maybe on the CPU side that shifting to these smaller nodes isn't just going from 4 to 3 isn't just going to dramatically give you like a massive boost to performance
or increase costs.
Yeah, and it's going to dramatically increase costs as well. Like it's I don't know. Like I think just pure node shifts now like don't really mean much because like even like Intel's new Core Ultra, like the latest rumor or leaked benchmark is that it 370 watt, like that you can be pushed unlocked to that, and when it's pushed to that, it outperforms like a previous gen, but like at its like 370 watts, or does the same as what it did at like 600 watts. But even like it has to push it to that power to beat it because because the other benchmarks are saying that it's actually slower than the last 2 generations because it's more efficient, but it's not more powerful. And the Intel side is like a massive node jump. It's like going from 8 to 4 or something like that. I can't remember what.
Yeah, I mean they were stuck at 14 for ages.
Yeah. So it's gone like it's a massive node jump, and it's not even like a exponential increase in performance.
Was it 14 or was it 7? What node were they stuck at for ages, and they had to do like plus?
Oh, it's Raptor Lake node.
I can't remember what one was it. 14?
Raptor Lake, it's for this. That Raptor Lake was for the 13th and 14th gen. It is, and just give me the node technology.
Yeah, I know Intel was stuck for a while and they had to keep refreshing. There's some critical problem with that specific node. But
the Intel 7 node, which
7,
is
yes, there's
10
7,
nanometer, not 7 nanometer.
And how many pluses did they do?
But it has the same density as TSMC's 7 nanometer node. So yeah. Anyways, yeah. So and then, So then, it's an N3B node, which is like 4 nanometer, I think, or 3 nanometer.
Yeah. Well,
For
TSMC are the magic makers. And we can expect Apple repackaged and optimized these chips, but the new M4 Max, sometime Gurman says that Apple is expected to announce these and launch them imminently before this media event. So we can expect it within a week, which is kind of cool. If you're a couple of generations behind, I can already recommend if you own an M3 MacBook, this probably isn't your generation to upgrade. However, if you're on a M1 like myself, or maybe an M2 and your workload is, I don't know, it needs a little bit more grunt behind it, then have a close look at these new Macs that are coming out, particularly the Mac Mini as well, if you're for whatever reason upset by the size. You're like, God damn, this thing's too big. It's already taking up too much real estate on my desk. I wish it was smaller. Well, Apple has you back there. But let's keep it to hardware. Let's talk PS5 Pro.
Yeah, well, this is AI hardware. Yeah, so the PS5 Pro, as we've talked a number of occasions, is out soon. Pre-orders are apparently doing really well. And now we're starting to see more and more details on PS5 Pro updates to games. A lot of them being existing titles, stuff that they announced when they revealed the console. One of the games is the Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart game, which is getting that was showcased by Sony because it's basically taking the performance mode from the PS5 version. The quality mode from the PS5 version, which would run the game at a upscaled 4K at 30 frames per second. And now on the PS5 Pro, it's doing that with at 60 frames per second. So it's like an immediate performance jump just based on the hardware. But Digital Foundry has done a deep dive on it, and what they focused on is Sony's PSSR, or PISA as it's being referred to, which is their DLSS, their FSR, their AI upscaler. And on console at the moment, the only option that developers have outside of using standard anti-aliasing and stuff like that is AMD's FSR. So AMD FSR 2 and 3.1 is available to console developers. And so that's AMD's DLSS, which we know on PC isn't as good as DLSS. So Digital Foundry's deep dive showing Ratchet and Clank, basically what they did was they had the game running on PC with FSR 3.1 to make sure it was using the most latest version of AMD's upscaler, and they matched the settings and the internal resolution, so it's like upscaling from the same source, and then doing high quality capture to that effect. And they did the same thing with running the game using DLSS 3.7, which is like the latest version of that. And it's actually pretty surprising, the difference. This is just one game, so obviously, even like DLSS, sometimes the per game implementation looks better on one versus the other. That's bound to happen. So even though it's just one game, it is pretty eye-opening. So Sony's PSSR versus FSR can be night and day in a lot of cases, especially when it comes to objects that are in motion, the clarity of objects and things like that. So there's a couple of examples that they did in the video. One of them being a confetti in the background, and it's kind of like at this 6.5 minute mark, where like this is stuff that you need to like pay close attention to the video and watch it in 4K if you can. So basically, with FSR, because there's like confetti, it's like a celebration scene. So there's confetti in the background, all different colored little bits of paper like floating through the air. And when it comes to FSR, like when you slow it down and you look at it closely, it doesn't know really what to do with the confetti. Like it looks like it's jumping around the screen, or it's not quite detailed. But
it's fading in and out.
But with PSSR, it looks smoother. Like you can see the confetti, and the byproduct of that, which Digital Foundry points out, is that it looks like there's more confetti with PSSR, even though there isn't, because FSR doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Now the other like big example is the when he's using a weapon, like at about the 4:40 or so mark, where you see like basically, I think they call it like fizzle, where it basically looks like it's all distorted or noisy around the character versus PSSR, and when the character swings a weapon, like it just looks like a noisy mess. There's other examples of like grass detail and things like that, which is just better on with Sony's PSSR. So what does this all mean? It means basically that 4K on the PS5 Pro is different to 4K on the PS5 and 4K on the Xbox for that matter. It's a DLSS like moment for console gamers. The only reason AI upscaling is talked about it as like a great feature to have is because of what DLSS has done for PC games. And so like basically it means that like the PS5 Pro games are just going to look better, like clearer, sharper, more detailed, and less fuzzy. So it's going to be like a 1080p to 4, like a Blu-ray upgrade basically. Like you're going to be like, oh yeah, that does look cleaner. And so like this is kind of like a secret weapon, because this doesn't require the PS5 Pro's 30% more powerful GPU to run. It doesn't require that. What it requires is Sony's bespoke AI algorithm and AI hardware to run this upscaler. So like, if they could go back in time, they would put this in the existing PS5. And if you put it in the existing PS5, it would make games look better, if they're patched to use PSSR instead of the whatever native upscaling or even like FSR that games use on PlayStation 5. So it's going to be interesting. Like this is going to be a secret weapon and a selling point for the console, and it's going to pave the way for the PlayStation 6 to have similar features, the next Xbox to go AI, even AMD. Like this basically, AMD's FSR, what it has going for it is that it's a open source algorithm, doesn't require hardware, and it works on everything, every GPU, every console, and it's not limited to one thing. So that's, it's like jack of all trades, master of none, which means that it's not as good as the others, and now it's just falling behind when it comes to things like ghosting and image fidelity. So AMD has announced that they're going to upgrade, the next version of FSR is going to be using AI algorithms, AI hardware. It's going to leverage all of that sort of stuff. I still think that they'll have like a software version that runs in parallel that won't be as good. But it shows you that like AI algorithms for upscaling is a game changer for being able to hit like, 4K. Like 4K gaming, like we talk about it now, but like native 4K gaming isn't really a thing technically. Like sure, the 4090 can run games in native 4K depending on the title, but it's not something that you would do really. Like you're not going to be running Cyberpunk in 4K natively with ray tracing. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. I think, well, first I'll start with the question, I suppose. I think a few episodes ago when we were, I think, covering the initial announcement of the PS5 Pro, you said something that was interesting, that stuck with me, is that, sorry, correct me if I'm wrong here, Persia.
Yep.
Is that, so that's what we're calling it?
That's what people are calling it, yeah. Cool. Which is funny.
Yeah, no, that doesn't have any problems at all. Anyway, so Persia could Jesus Christ.
It's funny though, but it's like, yeah, Persia.
Yeah. Oh no, Persia is great. No, it really is impressive. It's got a solid stream of data. Way better than FSR or whatever it is. But Persia is, I think you said this in the announcement video, there's a good chance that PSSR is a tweaked version of AMD's FSR, given that AMD hardware is powering the PlayStation 5 Pro and PlayStation 5 for that matter. Do you still think that is the case? Because you said bespoke hardware and bespoke algorithms, etc. So do you like, if you were to guess, speculate, like, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think Sony came up with this by themselves.
No, I don't think so either. And like I said, like with when it, speculating about Nintendo, like if you're going to use somebody's tech, like you would just brand it as your own, right? Like
absolutely,
like you rebrand things, you license, you brand it, and that makes sense. And the reason why, like one of the reasons why I said that was because the Sony touted that. But like also as well, like they're telling AMD, they're kind of like, not maybe telling AMD, but they're steering AMD's development when it comes to Radeon as well. So it's not just that they're just taking that tech. So they claimed that when it came to the ray tracing hardware, is that we pushed AMD to improve ray tracing. And AMD, we've already heard with RDNA 4, is that the ray tracing upgrade is going to be huge. So with the PS5 Pro, even though Sony didn't say it officially, everybody else was saying that it includes, well, they did kind of say next-gen RDNA tech. So it includes like ray tracing tech from the next generation of AMD graphics cards, the next Radeon that we're going to see at CES. Now, by that same token, like AMD has already said that, they are working on an AI-based version of FSR. And to be honest, this could be it, right? That this could be something that like they've worked with Sony on, like, co-developed, like, and I think that the framework would be FSR 3.1 or 2.2 or whatever it was, which is open source, right? I don't think Sony's or PlayStation's internal hardware team decided that, okay, we're going to start from scratch. How do we do this? All right, let's capture the temporal information. Let's now filter this into this algorithm. Let's do this. It's like, no, I mean, the FSR algorithm or the FSR code is all like, it's all open source, right? Like people can take it and develop it. Yeah. So that, like, I think it makes sense. And I think that, yes, I wouldn't be surprised if at CES we see the Radeon 8800 XT and AMD come out, and it's almost like the PS5 Pro announcement, right? They say, look at this. We've got double the ray tracing performance or triple or whatever it is. And we've got like AI upscaling. And then they show the side by side. Like it could be almost the exact same announcement in a way.
God,
like
I hope not.
It'll just be like a PS5 Pro for PC gamers, which in some respect is actually kind of cool because if they price it right, like, if it's more powerful than the 4070, it has this AI upscaling, so it's now but it doesn't have the game support. I mean, DLSS is in so many games now, it's that's a whole different discussion, right? But in terms of capabilities, it could be like, well, we can do that. We can do frame gen. We can do AI upscaling. We can do ray tracing.
It needs to at least match it.
You know what I mean? It's like we can do everything you can do at the same quality or so close that it's indistinguishable. And we're also cheaper. Then you've got a better, a more appealing sort of like a mainstream product where people can say, well, $100 cheaper, I can get, or the same price, I can get something that's more powerful and does the same stuff technically, but it's obviously a different ball game. And I think that, Sony releasing the PS5 Pro now with all this stuff is kind of like something that they worked with AMD. Whether or not Sony was the ones that said, we want AI upscaling and you need to, not dictating, but, like, we want this.
Yeah, they said, look, this is something that we need. You need
because DLSS. Our games are on PC now, and they've got DLSS, and they look amazing. Why can't we get that? You know what I mean? Like it could have been that sort of conversation that forced AMD's hand, or forced them to accelerate adopting AI for that. Because I mean, let's be honest, AI is going to be used for everything anyway. Based on AI being in absolutely everything, every app on every phone, like there's no reason why every upscaler, it's inevitable at this point. Like FSR would go AI at some point because everything else is.
Yeah. To bring it back to ground level. So for someone like myself that I don't own any PlayStation console. I think the last one that I owned was the PS3. And so if someone they didn't pick up a PS5, they have the PS4 Pro, would you be recommending them, and let's say they had the money to cash out on it in US, given what you've seen so far, because the console obviously isn't out yet, there's probably is going to be better examples of this technology in games that are built for the PS5 Pro versus games that have been updated. So we'll see that in the future. But if you're a PS4 Pro owner, would you be looking at the PS5 Pro based on what you've seen now, or would you be going for the standard PS5?
Oh no, I would go for the PS5 Pro. I think it's worth that's why I in the article and on social media when the social media tag that I put to it was that this is a DLSS moment for console gamers. Because the thing with like DLSS has a history where it was tied to ray tracing, right? So Nvidia wanted to bring ray tracing to gamers in like 2018, like when it was like way too early, and and it wasn't at a stage where you're like it was a selling point, because it was just it was just like cutting edge, bleeding edge technology that was great, but you wouldn't buy a 20 series card just for it. But they created DLSS as a way to make that playable, right? Because it's just so hardware intensive to render games at 4K, especially if you're throwing ray tracing into the mix. And it kind of failed because the way that they were training the AI model didn't quite work in 1.0. And then what happened was Control came out, Remedy's Control. And that takes place in an indoor, underground environment, and based on its setting has no... shouldn't be one of the best looking games of its time, business. Right? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was looking for. No business being so good looking. But, that had ray tracing, but it also launched with DLSS 2. And what happened was that if you had a high-end 20 series card, you could turn on the reflections, you could turn on this, you could turn on that, and you could play at 1440p or even 4K at a very playable frame rate. And it looked incredible. It was like, okay, this is just not possible without this tech. And it looks close to native. And then they kept improving it, and sometimes it looks better than native. And so now it's in every game, and every gamer turns it on. It's like it just took a couple of games to get to that point. Whereas like now it's, I guess, to get back to your question specifically, it's basically, would you buy a GeForce card without DLSS or with DLSS?
It's a good way of summing that up.
Because
I think we'll let that one sit right there, and the listeners can hang on that. So that's something to consider if you are shopping for a new console and are considering the PlayStation 5 Pro. I know I'm going to be getting one. It would be cool. I mean, I'm going to be getting one for work. So, I mean, obviously to play games, but I do want to do some testing on it as well. Some side-by-sides would be sick, like this Digital Foundry-esque kind of testing would be really interesting for Tweaktown and on the written side of things. But let's move it along. We think we did a good job last week of just rollerblading our way through the stories. But we'll keep it to hardware. Let's talk Steam Deck 2. Now, we all know, if you're a listener of the show, Kosta loves his handhelds. Anything that he can fit in his hand, he's a very big, very big fan of.
Especially when they're small and compact.
But let's, you met up with Valve at PAX last week, and you had a little chat about the Steam Deck 2. It is, the Steam Deck coming to Australia. Talk to us about the Steam Deck 2.
Yeah, so the Steam Deck came out, I think, 2022. So it's been out for a while in the US. It's like it's old news, right, for US listeners and even those in Europe. It just took a while for it to come to Australia. The reason why it's coming to Australia now is that they're shipping directly from Valve. So it's basically, you would buy it, you could just log into your Steam account, and as you buy a game on Steam, you can buy the Steam Deck, and Valve's warehousing and shipping and stuff like that, because it's different, to send you a piece of hardware than it is to add a game to your library.
Flick you a code on an email. Yeah,
so they had to create distribution channels and things like that, the shipping and all that sort of stuff, and then pricing and et cetera, and plus the Steam Deck was, very limited initially. Like, they sold out initially, the initial runs. It was like it took a while to ramp up. So, so it's available in Australia. I spoke to Valve briefly because but there were other people that sat down with the engineers and spoke to them about the Steam Deck and the Steam Deck 2 and why it took so long to come to Australia and what's on the cards for the future. And so the Steam Deck OLED, which is only about a year old now, is still impressive, still runs so many games, and it's a great little handheld. And fingers crossed I'll be getting a review unit soon, because, hey, it's coming to Australia, so now Valve, are happy.
Yeah, you put your hand up for it.
Yeah, are happy to accept those requests now. So, when it comes to the Steam Deck 2, Valve have kind of like hinted about it in the past, but they have basically said, quote, yes, we're excited and we're working on it. So yes, the Steam Deck 2 is in development, and the engineers are working on it. And as the Steam Deck OLED, which was basically just a display refresh, just like the Nintendo Switch OLED. What it did was it also improved the battery life and made a few minor tweaks here and there. So the Steam Deck 2 will obviously be a big moment for Valve, but they're also still selling the Steam Deck. Like, they just brought it to Australia, right? Like, why would you bring the Steam Deck to Australia if you're going to launch a Steam Deck 2 in next year, let's say, like theoretically? Well, Valve basically said, we're not interested in incremental updates. We're not interested in even like every 2-year updates. It's not like a GPU refresh. They want it to be a generational upgrade without sacrificing power or efficiency. So the Steam Deck 2 will arrive when there's a chip that can provide, let's say, 50, 60% more performance. Maybe even double the performance is what their target is. They haven't been specific, but using the same power. So what does that mean? I think that the Steam Deck 2 is Valve are treating it like Nintendo treat the Switch. This is a console generation for them. This is not, ROG Ally had the ROG Ally X, and we may see a sequel, another one, more powerful one next year. Neo is a company that releases PC gaming handhelds. They release refreshes or new models every year or two, or every year basically, that have like the latest Ryzen chip in it or whatever the case might be. And we know that early next year, AMD are going to make their Ryzen Z2 Extreme chip available to hardware makers, and that Z2 Extreme chip is apparently, it's going to be expensive, I think, but like it is a 30% to, let's say, the ROG Ally. So it'll be like 30% more gaming performance, which is decent, but that's kind of like a incremental upgrade. That's like going from a 3070 to a 4070 or something like that, or a 3080 to a 4080, where it's just a single generation. So Valve's with their Steam Deck 2, I think this is a smart approach, is that they're waiting for a massive uplift and they want it to be
upscaling. Sure.
Yeah,
I think. How are you going to get this a generational leap in compute? Like, if they're planning on doing this.
Oh, they want it in pure compute, right? Pure compute.
Oh, they want it
excluding upscaling, things like that. I think that'll be added because the current Steam Deck has FSR support because it's an AMD chip.
That's what I was going to say.
Frame generation on it. So, and AMD has said that they're developing FSR primarily for handhelds because it's going to use AI to upscale at lower resolutions that handhelds use. So I think that's a given for the Steam Deck 2 regardless.
Yeah, I agree.
But they're saying that, no, we're waiting for compute. And that's a very specific statement because that basically means that the raw performance...
Yeah, they want it native.
That needs to be... Well, the raw performance needs to be a massive uplift, which means you've got a better baseline because then because you will use FSR and all that sort of trickery on top of that to improve the fidelity and the frame rate and stuff like that, which is going to be natural. But I think that just means that we're not going to see a Steam Deck 2 next year. Possibly not even. I reckon 2027 is my guess.
Wow.
I think it's like
that long.
Yeah, I think it's like because you have to. Because like even they saw like
5 years.
Well, 3 years.
You said 2027 after its initial. Yeah. Oh, sorry. This is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. From its initial
thing. This is the OLED variant launched in 2022 in the US.
The OLED version was 2023, I think. Or did I put 2022?
After its initial launch in 2022 in the US and its arrival of the Steam Deck OLED variant in 2023.
Yeah. Yeah, so it'll be 5 years after the initial launch, which is like a console generation, right?
Well, yeah, I mean that's a healthy Nintendo generation, unless you're the Switch.
Well, I mean the Switch was
I can't even remember a time before the Switch existed. That's
I know. BS.
That's how long the Switch is. I think the Nintendo Switch is so old that it's always been. Like
I think if you go back in time, I don't think there was a time before the Switch. I think we're gonna dig up start watching World War II documentaries and gonna see soldiers playing with the Switch.
The Switch and Nintendo are like the TVA in Marvel, the Watchers of the timeline, like the sacred timeline from the Loki, and the Switch is the timeline. It's like the generational. It's the universal constant. Like. I can't remember a time before it existed. I don't think there's going to be a time after it's gone. Like when Nintendo comes out with another console, I think we're going to just get sucked into a black hole that is the first Nintendo Switch.
That's I agree that just the fact that because it's been so long, can you imagine just sitting down and just opening up YouTube and going, "Oh, Nintendo Switch 2 official presentation. Oh, let's watch this."
I'm gonna get under my desk.
That's gonna be so surreal. Yeah, it's gonna be so surreal.
It will be surreal. I'll be like, nah, they're playing. Let's again keep it to the hardware. We can finally talk. wait, we actually can't talk about all of it, but we can kind of talk about the X3D chips.
Yeah, they're coming very soon. Well,
Is that all?
I mean,
they
didn't. This is the extent of AMD's official announcement. AMD said next gen gaming is almost here. X3D reimagined, November 7, 2024, which is only a few weeks away, right? So they said next gen gaming is almost here. Ryzen 9000 series X3D. What does that mean? That's very vague, right? It's just a teaser and a date. But based on rumors and leaks, odds are it's the 9800 X3D based on multiple sources, which would be the successor to the 7800 X3D, which is probably the most popular
gaming
new CPU now, gaming CPU for people, I think.
Absolutely,
has been for a while.
For sure.
So what do we know outside of that? Nothing official, like in terms of...
Nothing we can tell you.
Yeah. It's going to have a boost clock, like it's going to be faster clock speed. Apparently it's going to use more power. There's been Gigabyte teased that there's a X3D turbo mode on their motherboards.
Sorry, say that again. Sorry.
Turbo mode.
Turbo. Oh, I thought you would do. I thought that's what it was actually called, to turbo mode. I'm like, nah, you can't. Pisser and turbo. Like, what are we doing? Like, what is these acronyms? Whatever it is. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so Gigabyte reckon. Well, on their motherboards there'll be like a turbo mode that'll boost performance by 35%, which is, it sounds too good to be true.
In what task though?
Exactly. What do we know when it comes to gaming performance? Not too much. There's been some leaks that productivity to performance is faster than the previous gen X3Ds. Gaming performance has also been rumored to be faster too. But if AMD are teasing this as next gen gaming is almost here, then you would assume that it's going to be more powerful for gaming. You would have to be, otherwise it's just going to backfire, because early pricing showing that it's more expensive too.
Yeah, it is more expensive because 7000 series CPUs are falling in price. In preparation for this, I suppose we do have to dance around what we do know. But there has been leaks I've seen from the event
that slide has gone up. Yep.
Hey.
Yeah, so that information is available, so we can talk about it from a third person, not third person, as in detached.
Reese, get ready to cut whatever we're about to do right here. So yes, there is performance out there if you do want to find it. We were briefed on performance, but we cannot say what that is. Look, I think we've been talking about it for a while now. This is all on the same node as well. We do expect a slight performance increase, as you would with any of these X3D chips from previous generations. In gaming performance, there is a reason to believe, if you've seen the leaks, that it might not reach expectations. But look, we're in a time right now, and I think we've outlined this previously on the show, that like the CPU market is on fire. Like there is no hope. No hope, no trust. It feels like no hope. In specifically the CPU market, the 7000 series was it's almost ad nauseum, I've repeated this, the least adopted generation of CPUs since Bulldozer, from AMD. And Intel, well, they fired 15% of their workforce as a result of their last 13th, sorry, not the last generation, the 13th and 14th generation CPU launches. So look, we're not looking good here, fellas. It's not looking great, especially if you're looking to upgrade. I would keep an eye out for, if you're really interested in these X3D chips, more leaks. They're everywhere. You can find them. And some of them are real. I won't tell you which ones are, but there you go. You go on a wild goose chase. But it is crazy to look at. And I suppose this isn't.
I think we'll find out more, because like the Core Ultra 200 series chips are out in a few days or whatever, we should start seeing full reviews and benchmarks and get an idea of their efficiency, but their performance relative to the 14th gen, and also the 9000 non-X3D versions. And I think AMD will obviously not do it at the same time, like showcase the 3D performance, whatever. Like they'll wait a few days. If they're launching on November 7, we'll definitely probably a week from now have that information where we know based on their internal charts. But then there's going to be a lot of skepticism because when it came to the Zen 5 launch, AMD showed like a bunch of performance figures that people were saying like, we couldn't reach that. Like, where'd you get that? You know, how'd you get?
True.
How'd you get 15% there? We only got 5%.
We heard that on the ground at MSI from the reviewers that were testing them as well.
Yeah, and so it got nicknamed Zen 5%.
That's fun, isn't it? That's so good.
That's a good one though. Like that's like you got
I love when something has been coined in a term or an expression that you can just put. It feels like you can just put it between your your pointer finger and your middle finger and your thumb, and you're like, oh, that's lovely right there. That's lovely. Yes. So look, we are going to find out more about these X3D chips on November 7th. And so the rumors are pointing to November 7. These were different rumors that we heard.
Yes.
So wait, so the rumors have changed.
There were rumors that it was delayed till next year because of issues. Or well, it was just delayed to next year. And this just seems like
is this a reaction to Ultra launching?
I think so.
I think so as well.
I think that, and there's also been rumors that the 7800 X3D production has kind of like stopped or whatever the case is. So they kind of need a replacement CPU for gamers, and maybe that's another reason. But like I don't know. But then there's probably too much happening at CES that they don't want to get drowned out. So whatever the case is, I think the original plan was to get them all out now, and I think whatever. They don't want to repeat the Zen 5 launch where certain things weren't ready or, had to do BIOS upgrades, Windows updates, etc., etc. Things are a lot better now. So maybe it was a case of like, all right, things are in line. Let's just get this one out. Which one are we going to get out? We'll get the 9800 X3D. That's the most popular chip. Let's push that out now.
Yeah, look, that makes sense. Or I think multiple things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
Like it's not just one of them things. It's probably all of them. It's probably all of them at once. So we'll have more details for you guys when more leaks surface, and when the official launch happens as well. I'm sure we'll have a review up on Tweaktown, and we might quickly skim over that and just do some, I don't know, talk about the basic benchmarks for them, especially considering these are gaming focused CPUs. But let's keep it moving on to the next story here. Let's talk Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, we always bring it up.
Do you want to do the Minecraft or the Pokemon leak first? What do you want to go into?
Whichever one you want. I don't.
All right, well, I'll talk about
because they're both very similar.
The leak is kind of crazy, and did we talk about this last week? I think we talked about this last week, didn't we?
No, we didn't.
No,
the massive Game Freak hack. No.
The Game Freak hack is proving to be intense, and what I mean by that is, just a little bit of backstory. For those that don't know, Game Freak is the developer of Pokemon. Obviously Nintendo publishes the game, but they outsource the development to a separate studio. Game Freak is that studio. Game Freak had its servers compromised. I'm pretty sure it was in August this year. And as a result, we saw a monumental dump of confidential Nintendo. I don't know, where do you start here? You've got unreleased Nintendo game. We have series lore, company meetings, possible multimedia adaptations. I'm talking like Detective Pikachu, esque movies, code names for future Pokemon titles, code names for and art for the new generation of Pokemon, and probably the most exciting part for me personally was the code name for the Nintendo Switch successor, and that was OUNCE. OUNCE. Is that how you would pronounce that? OUNCE? OUNCE?
Ounce.
Ounce?
Yeah, that's the American.
I was trying to put a little bit of Japanese on that. I apologize for anyone that I've offended. But like, I just didn't want to read it like surely they're not walking around calling it an ounce, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a pretty strange project name.
Yeah, well, given like we had like Dolphin and what was the other ones?
Revolution.
Yeah, there's just way cooler. I mean, Scarlet was the Xbox one. I mean, they could have chosen something else, like make it cooler. They could have called it like Flip or something like that. And then everyone would be like, oh my God, the new Nintendo's console is going to flip. It's going to be a foldable. That would be awesome. Yeah. I mean, that would actually be in line with that rumor that we saw with the DS. That's actually, that would actually be crazy. But yeah, so the leak is severe, and it's estimated, according to reports, it's approximately 2 terabytes of data. But at the time of this article, which was October 18th, I wrote this, there was only 3 gig of it being released, and everything that I just mentioned was within that 3 gig. So you can imagine what the hacker is sitting on. Oh my God. Reese, throw up some of these images on the screen for the YouTube viewers. And if you are listening on your walk or something, just pull up the YouTube if you want to see some of these leaked.
Don't show the leaked images because we'll get a takedown.
Reese, don't show any of this, any of the leaked images that I just said.
If you want to see it, because even in my like MMO Pokemon Minecraft article, like the game that Nintendo's working on, I didn't use any of the images, or because like, and I know other outlets haven't either, because you're just going to get a very Nintendo like, yo, take that down.
Okay. Well, don't go to my article, and I don't have any of the images in my article.
Because you can already see like some of the videos have already been deleted from the X post that you embedded. Like they've already been,
Yeah. Okay. Look, scrap all of that.
Code.
Scrap
all
this.
the images. Yeah, the images are being removed. Like probably the Reddit link from my article's probably been removed as well now. Like it's
I mean, there's nothing we can do about that. But I don't want the YouTube video to be copyrighted. Reese, don't show those images for the love of God. I don't want to be touched by the long arm of Nintendo.
They can't censor our thoughts.
Not yet. Not yet. I reckon that's a feature with the Nintendo Switch too. It's like if you think poorly about any Nintendo game, you will get a DMCA takedown, an internal one. Yeah. All right. Well, that kind of. I mean, at least I can talk about it, right? Like that's not going to get censored. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank God. All right. So within the Game Freak leak, we had Ounce. That has no indication for the official name of the successor. I think it's going to be the Nintendo Switch 2. I think
Super
you
Nintendo
think it's
Switch.
going to be the Nintendo Switch 2. Wait, what did you say, sorry?
Super Nintendo Switch.
That is possible as well.
But I don't think that they would do something so
that's on the nose.
Retro. Yeah, like the old Nintendo, and then you got the Super Nintendo. Yeah. I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll just be like boring, like Nintendo Switch 2. Because I think you don't want to have any mistake about what it is, because the Wii U was like what is this?
Yeah.
And
Wii,
I don't
where?
think yeah. So I don't think they're going. I think it just makes sense just to have it be like Switch 2. Yeah. Or even like Nintendo Switch Next or something like that.
You know how I've been petitioning for some company to call their product Blade?
Then the Switchblade? Yeah. That would be good. But like, it doesn't really make sense.
But the people, imagine if Nintendo called their console Switchblade and the highest rated game that they make is G.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't fit the MO, right? Like, it's going to be like,
no, they make kids games.
When you turn it on, it'll be like turning on like one of those ROG laptops or whatever. It'll be like whoosh, like
yeah.
Like knife sounds.
Got a whoosh sound. Imagine kids going up to their parents for Christmas and be like, "Mummy, Daddy, can I get a Switchblade for Christmas?"
Maybe but they they go back to like the 90s or like in the 90s, right? So when Sega started like eating into Nintendo's market share, they started putting out all these like edgy, or like like these really cool like ads where they were appealing to like teenagers for the first time, or like people that were in college. And like Nintendo was like, and in the Sega's ads they would like, saying like Nintendo is for kids, blah blah blah. And then to respond, like a year later, like Nintendo started putting out their own like edgy ads for like come play on the Super Nintendo or the N64. Like like they like back in like that sort of like era of the early or like just throughout the 90s, it was like where all these game makers were just. Every company was trying to appeal to be like cool and hip and edgy to like teenagers and college-aged people. So
they wanted to get the kids riding skateboards.
Yeah, so maybe now that all the Switch gamers are grown up now, they're going to have to, start appealing to the...
That's the new rumor, dude. The new rumor is that the name for the Nintendo's
next the Switchblade.
Is the Switchblade.
And it's going to be edgy and in your face. It's going to be...
It's going to be sharp. It's going to be real good. But what we do know, based on this leak, is that, and unsurprisingly, but there is a new Pokemon game in development. I wonder who could have called that. But according to the leak, it is currently going by the code name Synapse. It was previously called Rodeo. And a lot of the, like Kosta said, a lot of the X posts that are embedded in my article have just been deleted. Like the content from them has been deleted, but I can tell you from looking at them that players were able to ride their Pokemon in that, which was an interesting take on that. I suppose it's like mounts. It makes sense. People
I'm
love
just surprised
mounts.
that hasn't been a thing.
Hey?
Before. Like, I'm surprised that hasn't been a thing.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Also, other details that were revealed is the game appeared to be a co-op multiplayer title, and it was designed for the Nintendo Switch and mobile devices. So it's not just a Switch exclusive. And that it drew major inspiration from the Nintendo series Splatoon. I haven't played Splatoon, so I'm not sure of the...
Splatoon is kind of cool, but it's like a very... it's like Nintendo's take on a shooter in a way, like where like the standard multiplayer is like the competitive side. It's like you just got like these paint guns, and you're supposed to like paint. Whoever paints over most of the map wins, and you can obviously like knock each other out with paint. So it's like a very Nintendo like shooter in some respects. Yeah, but then it has like a single player mode and it has like a multiplayer hub with some sort of co-op stuff in Splatoon 2. But it's a huge game in Japan. So like in Japan, games traditionally like Call of Duty and stuff like that, they don't do that well in that region because like I think there was like some study, like I would need to double check this, so maybe this is not true. But I remember like there was a study on like why aren't first-person shooters popular in Japan like they are in other places, and it was that Japanese gamers do not like the first-person perspective or are more predisposed to feeling nauseous or like disoriented from playing in like first-person.
Really?
Yes. And so that's why a lot of their games are third-person, and that's why Splatoon was like third-person as opposed to first-person.
What do you think has caused that? Without...
But regardless of
research.
Like if that's the reason or not, like first person stuff just weirdly doesn't do well in Japan. And so Splatoon isn't like a huge, like it is big globally, but it's massive in Japan. So it's like it has a huge competitive scene and it's a big franchise for Nintendo, like throughout Asia specifically. But it's not a major thing. Like Splatoon for Nintendo there is kind of like Overwatch or
Mm.
Valorant or whatever. Like that's what it is for the Switch in that region.
Yeah, wow. Do you think 007 or GoldenEye sold well over
Globally,
there?
yeah, not there though. No.
Not there. So that's so interesting. I
That
wonder.
that was always an anomaly. It was like that was like the Western sort of game. Like it did well in Western
Yeah,
markets, but not in like like the first person genre was never embraced, and like that might have been down to like the lower frame rate as well. Then like
possibly.
where
Yeah.
it affected them, like first person, whereas we kind of like roll with the punches when it came to those early first person shooters on
Mm.
the N64. But
But
yeah, like
it's
it
just
is a
weird that it
genre.
hasn't picked up though. Like that it just hasn't been a popular genre. Like I can get the argument for the lower frame rate, and maybe it just not like there not being a lot of titles out there to attract that kind of culture specifically. But like
Yeah, and then
these
this is
days, there's thousands of games, right?
yeah, but there's also the thing where Western games traditionally don't do well in as well in
Yeah, I
Japan.
just want
Like
to know why.
you've got like like back in the even like now like, but it was more prominent in like the PS2 or the PS3 era where you would have a Western RPG or a JRPG or a Japanese RPG,
Yeah,
and
true, yeah.
you would differentiate games like if it's Final Fantasy, it's a JRPG.
Yeah.
If it's Oblivion, it's a Western RPG, or if it's Baldur's Gate or whatever the case is, and yeah, it was kind of like there was like two sides of the coin, and traditionally the Western RPGs like they sold okay in Japan. There were obviously there's players there, games do like it's not like as if nobody was playing it, but like traditionally like it was like JRPGs like ruled the roost there,
Yep.
and almost felt like Japanese gamers predominantly were just more interested in
Pokemon.
Japanese developed titles or Pokemon and things like that
Yeah.
versus anything from the West, which included RPGs and shooters and stuff like that. Games that
Yeah.
we all played.
I think, yeah, they must really like. Look, Pokemon is probably the best-selling video game franchise of all time, or it's at least in the top 10. I would say, just terms of like I haven't seen the numbers, but how many units they've sold, and just a guess really. But this new game that was leaked with the Game Freak stuff looks very interesting. I think Pokemon fans would have eaten this up. Simply, like, it does seem slightly gimmicky in terms of like, you can now ride them. Like, that's cool, but that's enough for them to move an immense amount of units on this game.
Nintendo's popularity is that like if they were to do like any sort of like online version of whatever X franchise, and if it's like executed well and it has their level of originality to it, where it's like their spin or whatever take, like you just know that it's gonna do gangbusters, right? Like if
It was like Power World.
If Nintendo had, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, well, this game has been apparently in development since 2019. Is it still in development? According to the leaks, there isn't any new information on the current status of the title, but according to the hacker behind the leak, they did inform the X account Centro Leaks that a new game codename Synapse fits the description of the Pokemon Rodeo perfectly, even down to the inspiration for the title being Splatoon. So Pokemon Rodeo, not officially, but no longer exists, but the concept was later adopted into Synapse in whatever that might be. So yeah, that's a little, I'm guessing we're going to see more and more data come out of this leak as time goes on. If the 2 terabyte estimation is true, this is huge. Like we could eventually probably get blueprints for
they're like Nintendo's swift in taking all this stuff down, but you will be able to see them, but it's just not going to be you're gonna have to like search for it.
Yeah, it might take you some time, but it will be out there. And the hacker, whoever has done that is, you are a madman. You are a madman. But let's keep it on Nintendo.
Before we jump onto that, I've got the Wikipedia's the best-selling video game franchises of all time. I'll give you the top 5 and the numbers because
Wait, let's see if I can guess them. Let's see if I can guess them.
What's number 1? These are franchises.
Franchise, I'm gonna have to say something boring like Tetris or Pac-Man.
Mario, like the elephant in the room.
Of course.
You missed Mario. 879.4 million across all the Super Mario, Mario Kart, Mario Party, Mario.
Oh, that's
all the different Mario
units
games.
of the okay, all right.
Yeah, that includes Donkey Kong, the original Donkey Kong as well. So that's the Mario franchise is the biggest. What do you think number 2 is?
Number 2.
This is like just number of copies sold, not money generated.
Number of copies sold. I'm gonna say Pac-Man.
You were so close because you said Tetris and it's Tetris.
Oh,
495 million, which most of it is mobile game paid downloads. So Tetris, like as popular as it was, like 70 million physical game sales for like the original Nintendo and stuff, Game Boy and stuff like that. It's actually mobile Tetris that has made it a juggernaut in terms of like number of actual copies sold.
Wow.
Number 3.
Third.
I would say just don't say Pac-Man anymore because it's not in the top 5.
Okay. All right. I mean, that wasn't my third guess at all.
I know. Number 3.
I'm just like Pac-Man for the remainder. I'm like, just to make it a bit in there. He's my favorite yellow guy.
Just to make it a bit more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, true for the listener. You said mobile games, so that means I was going to put Minecraft up there, but that's not a mobile game.
Well, mobile games are included, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that the franchise. We're talking about franchises now as well. Yeah.
Okay. Damn.
So it's Mario, Tetris, number 3.
What was that, sorry?
So we got Mario number 1, Tetris number 2. What's number 3?
Man, I'm trying to think. Pokemon?
Yes, it is Pokemon.
Thought so.
480 million. It's actually not far behind Tetris, but I would say it's like more
culturally relevant.
It's more pop culturally relevant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Most units sold. I want Skyrim to be in there just because it's hilarious. But I don't think it's that. No, it's not old enough, right? We need to think of. It needs to be like I mean, it's got to have the legs.
We're in the
on
hundreds and hundreds of millions. Like now.
What was everyone playing when I was a kid? Oh man, is it another Nintendo title? Can you give me a hint?
No, it's not. It's an absolute juggernaut.
Oh no.
This is the game. This is the franchise.
It's the franchise. Oh, Grand Theft Auto.
Yes.
Oh,
yes, it's Grand Theft Auto.
I can't believe I forgot that.
5 games, 430 million copies.
Wow.
Okay, so number 5, to round out the top 5, I will give you a clue.
Mm.
Is that it's another juggernaut, but instead of 5 games, it feels like there's 50 games.
Pac-Man, dude. It's not Pac-Man.
It's not Pac-Man.
Oh, okay, damn. There's 50 games instead of 5.
Where it feels like there's 50 versus it's almost like sold as many as Grand Theft Auto, but it's not. Like it's where Grand Theft Auto did those numbers with 5 games, this franchise needed 20 games. Let's say I don't know how many there've been.
Is it a mobile game?
No.
Oh, okay, beautiful.
There is a version of mobile, but it's not thought of as a mobile game.
50 games.
Well,
okay, so
that's an exaggeration.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. But
it's way more than 5.
Lots and lots of games.
There's lots of these. There have been many of these.
Is it a Nintendo game?
No, and that's not the final clue. I told you it's a juggernaut. It's not a Nintendo game, and there's been way more of these than there have been Grand Theft Autos.
I don't know. Not like it's not like Mega Man or something like that, is
Nah.
it?
I'll give you
No.
one final clue, and which is
Alright.
a lame one. Oh, hello. Sorry, I just got a call.
I don't know why, but I just thought of the Matrix then, them getting out of the Matrix. Hello, I just got a call. Can I have another hint?
Dude, it's Call of Duty.
Oh, Call of Duty. Oh.
What else can I say?
That hint was almost too close to it.
There's been 20 of these and 5 Grand Theft Autos, 50 of these. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That is, yeah, I should have got that one. That one. Yeah, that's bad.
Trivia is bad. Like, I'm bad when it comes to these sort of, when you have to, because this is actually an interesting list because, yeah, Call of Duty, after Call of Duty, just to round out like the big sellers, it's Minecraft, FIFA, Lego, and The Sims, weirdly. And then Assassin's Creed actually makes it in there.
Wow.
So,
that's interesting. That's quite interesting. What do you think, numbers-wise, Nintendo's new Minecraft-style MMO is going to do?
I don't know. Like, this comes from like a Nintendo team that is known for making quirkier sort of games. So Nintendo announced a couple of weeks ago that they were doing a playtest for the Switch, Nintendo Switch Online. And it didn't have any sort of info where they basically said, sign up for your chance to take part in this playtest. People started speculating, is this going to be for the Switch 2? Is it going to be like a new social hub? Are they testing some sort of bringing the Mii's back, but doing some sort of thing about Nintendo Switch Online? Surely it's not going to be just, here's, some more N64 games, see if they work sort of thing. Well, it turns out that it's a Minecraft and Roblox style MMO, and there's apparently 10,000 or so people playing it. And so, people that have already started, they're starting to play it now. I think today is when it kicks off. Wow. So Nintendo shared a document with everybody that which agreed to it. They agreed to an NDA. They agreed to hey, if you take part in this. So in my Reddit link, there's a document, a Google Doc, which is still up. So it actually hasn't been removed. So what is this game? It is, I'll give you Nintendo's description of it. And they want us, they're basically, they haven't confirmed that it's an actual game coming out or anything like that. But they said the purpose of the game, the goal is to work with others to fully develop, in quotes, a massive, expansive planet by utilizing creativity and farmed resources. As you progress across the planet, you'll discover new lands, enemies, and resources that will become essential to your journey. Each player is given a beacon, and these beacons emit healing light, and they purify and develop the land. So if you put your beacon, the higher you put it, it creates this bubble, right? And in that bubble is a green Minecraft blocky type world that you have full control over to develop. And it's a part of this planet. That's your corner of this planet. And in this playtest, there's 10,000 players putting down these beacons and creating their own little corner of the world. And they say it's massive, and every player has a GPS system, it's called a player development, player PS or DPS system, development positioning system. So wherever people will be able to view a massive map to see where everybody is, or be able to see their friends, or go check out this or that. And your bubble or your beacon is your safe zone. There's going to be some place called the dev core for development, where it's a social hub where people can do stuff. The visuals are very simplistic. It's very Roblox or Minecraft in terms of basic blocks, but the characters kind of look funky. They kind of look like Nintendo-ish sort of characters, where they got small eyes, long gangly arms, and they're cel shaded. A lot of the visuals look very rudimentary and simple, because I'm guessing this is running on existing Switch hardware. Whether or not this is a Nintendo Switch 2 sort of game, whether or not this is a very early playtest, but I think if Nintendo had got it to this point, and this is very much an MMO or a massively multiplayer Minecraft, is that there is no way to continue development on this sort of game once you hit a certain milestone, unless you do a big playtest. Because you've got all these systems in place, You can't test this sort of experience with 300 or 500 or even 1,000 people all within one company, right? You need to have like 10,000. That's why, like, Valve is testing Deadlock, right? Like, if you've got a multiplayer game, you need to test it at scale, especially if it's an MMO.
Especially if you want to release it at Nintendo standard.
Yes, right. Like, it could just be catastrophically broken. And for example, like this could be at a point where Nintendo is super comfortable with it. They've tested, they've simulated scale, they've tested with hundreds of their own people, and by all their calculations, it should scale perfectly to 10,000, 50,000, however the server system works. But obviously there can be issues, and this could go smoothly, or it could have, or not, like depending on what happens. But based on that, like the fact that they would do it and open up to players, and obviously, they're getting an NDA, that this is definitely going to be a game. I think, like the concept.
I 100% think it's going to be in a game.
But also as well, like it taps into something Nintendo hasn't really done. Minecraft is big. Minecraft is big on the Switch, right?
Yeah.
Also an MMO, but also like Roblox. Like when you think about Roblox, if you're over 10 years old, it means nothing to you, right? But this is probably the biggest gaming franchise in the world, or one of. Roblox is, every kid's playing it. Like my nephews play it, and it's just a weird mishmash. It looks ugly, and you're like, what is this? But it's all user-generated content. It has like little, like there's kids get together, they chat, they play, they download these like weird mini games. People play like these just rudimentary like platformers and whatever. They get to make their own. And Roblox is huge, right? There's just like hundreds of millions of children around the world are playing Roblox. And it is like up there with Minecraft, but Minecraft has kind of like crossed over to be more of an all ages franchise. So, and Roblox is huge. Minecraft is big, and it's big on the Switch, Minecraft. So this is Nintendo going, well, I mean, maybe they took a look at all of this and said, like, their target market is young people. And if young people and children now are interested in creating in their games, then this is potentially their take on that. And their take on that is going to be strange and weird, kind of like how this sounds. It's like, you put down this beacon and you're on this massive planet, and your beacon emits light, and then you can build in your little zone, and then you can go out to explore, gather resources, meet other players. Maybe there's PvP, maybe there's not, whatever the case is. And then you go back to your safe zone, you go to this other social hub. And what you build, what the goal is, I don't really know. And the document doesn't really say, other than it being like a shared world creation. And then like the goal, the goal they say is to develop an entire planet, which is going to be crazy, right? Imagine you've got 1 million Nintendo fans, young Nintendo fans, that jump into this game, and obviously they're not all coordinating, right? But they're all contributing to create a planet. That sounds pretty out there for a video game, like a traditional.
It's out there for Nintendo, that's for sure.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Which it's kind of cool. Like I think it sounds cool.
Look, we're fans of big swings, and Nintendo has been sticking to its mold for so long with its games. I like to see them come out and try something new. And look, if this game makes Nintendo much more comfortable with online experiences with their fans and owners of their consoles, I think this is going to only expand their online presence, which means that the Switch Online isn't going to be garbage anymore. Yeah, like if this is a hit, they're going to put some time into the online side of the Switch, which is great.
That's what we want to see. Like almost like, obviously we know it's going to be more powerful, but even then it's like it's aging hardware, because the Switch 2 was finalized years ago, according to rumors or whatever the case is. But it's been so long, it's going to be powerful. It's going to be twice as powerful, 3 times, 4 times, who knows? But like outside of that, I think we're on the same page where it's like, man, what would excite me is if they showcase a slick UI that's super quick, and then an online interface that's super quick, and a Nintendo Switch Online service that is like seamlessly integrated into everything. It's not just an app that you'll have to load to play this retro console or that retro. It's like this. It's a more unified system that has social elements. It has, chat is like integrated into it. Like there is, even if it's just a Discord app or whatever, like, you know, they partner with, like, you know, like it needs some touches to
It needs to be modernized.
it needs to, that's right. It needs to be modern. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It needs
It's
to
not
be
modern.
modernized.
It's very old. It's reminiscent of like Xbox 360 online experience. And you could even argue that had more
I don't mind if
communication capabilities than Nintendo Switch's and then the Nintendo Switch Online's current system.
I don't want it to be a PC, right? I like there's PC gaming handhelds. It doesn't need to be a PC. It doesn't need to be a Steam Deck. Like it just needs to be more modern, but it also but while still being that Nintendo closed garden, that Nintendo ecosystem, like it's their store, it's their online service, but it just needs to be at the level that we've been used to everywhere else for a decade now.
I completely agree. Do you think that Nintendo hasn't released Roblox on the Nintendo Switch is because they are developing this game?
Roblox is very, like, I don't know, like the way it works is I think it just wouldn't be able to work within the Switch ecosystem because it's a lot of like downloading and it requires so many networking type stuff, like this modernization stuff. It's like where is this functionality, that functionality, but also as well.
Well, you got Super Mario Maker Roblox that does downloadable community generated content.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's what they have been leaning into as well. Like, you know, and even like Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, you know, adding the vehicle creation and having it being more open ended in the puzzles and exploration. It's a brilliant sort of like transition for that sort of series that started with Breath of the Wild, where it's no longer that rigid Zelda game where you go find X weapon and then that X weapon will let you open up this door now, and then you open up that door and you get this item, and that item lets you open up this door. You know, that's sort of like where you can work out the logic, or, you know, you can work out the maze in your head, whereas something like Minecraft is not working out what you see in front of you. It's deciding what you want to be in front of you.
I completely agree with that. And to stem off of it, you just said The Legend of Zelda, and that made me think of the new one with Zelda is for the first time the protagonist in it, and she doesn't have a sword. She instead has a wand and spawns things in front of her. Yeah. Do you think, I'm just trying to link the two together now, it's like, well, maybe Nintendo are leaning more towards this, like you were saying, instead of giving you the like here's the set of options of or maybe there is no options, there's just like, here's how you're going to progress throughout the game. Instead they're like, how do you want to do it? Do you want to, and they said they give you a bunch of really cool mechanics, and then you can go out into the world that they've built and traverse it yourself. I think that's awesome, and especially great for kids, right? Like kids just want to explore.
But they've always been like, even when it is just like a traditional game, like they've always made it feel like you were doing something new, or you were, you know, like you were engaging with it at a level. It was kind of like that, like it was almost like like Nintendo magic, that sort of, you know, like, oh, it just feels so much better to play Mario Odyssey than it does Crash Bandicoot, right? Like, why is that? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, I mean, Mario Odyssey, like, it is creative in a way, like the fact that you can, you know, like what that game does, it's like, yeah, it's still a traditional game, but it evolves. Like Nintendo always adapts and evolves, but I think like this specifically is way more than just like Mario Maker, which is like, well, now you can make your own Mario levels, and, you know, and it's a great tool. It's a creative tool. Whereas this is like more of a, okay, this is a MMO style. This is like Minecraft, where you can jump into a server with
it's a higher concept, of people. Bigger scale. Higher concept.
Create this, that. Like it's an open-ended. The goal is to just develop a planet. Like there's no, you know what I mean? There's no story that from we can see so far, like attached to it. Just like there isn't anywhere else. But like there will be lore, and there'll be like its own Nintendo world. But yeah, that's cool. I think it's kind of cool.
I think it's very cool. I hope it doesn't turn out like Roblox in the sense of the Turkish government banning it over inappropriate and predatory activities.
Yeah, Roblox is kind of like a grey area where it's like if you
some pedos on there, man. That's no good.
Well, I mean, that's just going to be like when it comes to like that sort of thing, like that's expected.
Yeah, what's your
But
comment
even
on
then-
that, Costa? What do you think about
Yeah, I'm against
Where
it.
did we go
Of course.
from there?
But then it's also like the monetization of it in Roblox, where kids can like, become creators and sell stuff through it, but then Roblox takes a massive cut. So, but then they're criticized for not cracking down on when there's inappropriate things, just like in terms of content for young aged people and stuff like that. So, and I think Nintendo probably sees that and goes like, we don't want to be the moderators for Roblox. Like if we bring it to the Switch.
Totally fair. Made it radioactive for them. Plus, look, if they were working on this game for years and it was essentially a skinned, like this is a reductionist statement I'm about to make, but like a reskinned Roblox, but for Nintendo's world, I can see them being like, well, why would we release Roblox onto our platform when we can do it better and our way with this title. I'm very excited to see what this is. Like Nintendo taking a big swing at something that they haven't done before. I'm here for that every single day of the week. Let's move it along. Back onto the Ubisoft train. Ubisoft train. I got it right that time. I had some stuttering issues the last few episodes when talking about Ubisoft. Ubisoft. I did it again.
Slop.
It's a Freudian slip.
But Ubisoft is
but we
like
do have
Zen
some
5%.
new news about Ubisoft, and there is a story that I haven't added into the doc, which is in the description below with all the links to all of the stories that we've been talking about this episode. And that is a slight update to the story I'm about to tell you guys about now. So French journalist Gout, hit that word for me.
French journalist Gateau, maybe?
Gateau?
Just to say
I always have
French
fun trying to
journalist.
pronounce different words.
or
I'm
just
like,
say,
'cause I
like-
just butcher them.
Oh, is that the name of what's the name of the publication? Oh no, it's like a YouTube video.
That's his name, dude.
French journalist Gateau.
All right, let's go with that.
Gateau's.
Gateau. French journalist Gateau has reported that the team Ubisoft Montpellier.
We should just get into a supercut of you trying to pronounce.
Oh no, dude, Reese will have a field day. I can't do it.
Montpellier.
I suck so bad. Is it Montpellier?
No, Montpellier.
Oh, so I got it right.
Yeah.
Damn you, dude. So French journalist Gateau's has reported the team. I did that one on purpose.
Like you don't even have to name it. You could just say like a French journalist and the
Where's
team
the
that
fun in
worked
that,
on.
Costa?
But then
Where is the fun in that?
And then you don't have to stumble around going boop, beep, beep, boop, 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 boop.
I think me embarrassing myself is funny. I think it's funny. I have fun with it. Anyway, let's move past it. Ubisoft Montpellier has been disbanded, according to this journalist, after the disappointing sales of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I actually am a big fan of the Prince of Persia. It was one of the, I think it was one of the more violent games that my mum let me play on the PS2 when the first game came out.
Was it like Sands of Time or the sequel that was darker?
I can't remember. But I remember being in like Video Easy or some movie rental place, and I'm like, Mum, get me this game. Like, I want this. And she's like, took one look at the cover. And she's like, no, you're 11. Like, this is crazy. What you can't play this. This guy's got like shurikens. Got like Jak and Daxter or like ATV racing instead or something like that. But yeah, I saw The Lost Crown. I'm like, oh wow, they're bringing it back. This looks kind of cool. It was a side scroller game, which is different from the previous.
I've played it. Yeah.
The previous titles, it looked sick, and I looked at reviews for it. People liked it.
I pretty much got really close to the end. I can't remember what happened, but like, yeah, it's basically like an old school. It's kind of like a Super Metroid or the
2.5D.
Yeah, like the Symphony of the Night Castlevania game where it's like this big sort of like open where you go back and around, and there's a lot of backtracking, and there's a lot of like, it's like a really cool, 2D sort of game. and it actually captures that. So it really nails that sort of like Metroid style of exploration, Metroidvania, and and the combat's cool in it, and the puzzles were really cool. But also like there's really time trial type of thingers where it's like you have to. You can do like the rewind time as like abilities. You have all these crazy abilities. But then like you would see like you get into this room, you'd be like, okay, I want to get that bonus item up there. And then you realize you work out like in your head, I'm going to have to go up here, dash off that wall there.
I don't mind doing that, eh? Like if you're on a plane.
Yeah, no, yeah. Create a ghost here, then go zoom back to the ghost. Because you would create like one of your moves was at any point you can just create like a basically like a ghost or a spectral version of yourself. And then at any point you can just rewind back to that.
And, cool. It's like Echo spot. From League of Legends.
Yeah, essentially like that. And and those, I love those areas because it was just like you would just try and be like, no, I'll do this, that, and then you pull off this crazy, skill-based platforming thing with abilities, and then you get the item, and you're like, oof, and it just felt rewarding. So it was like a really rewarding, fun game to play.
So why do you think Ubisoft disbanded the team behind? So that's what this French journalist is reporting, is that he has heard that Ubisoft has disbanded Ubisoft Montpellier, the developers behind the game, and that this decision was made only weeks after the release of The Lost Crown. Apparently there was disappointing. The game did not reach internal sales predictions, and I have a story that is a follow-up to that. Just let me get it. Where is it? I put it into the back end. Which is like Insider Gaming as well, so
it's a shame because it's a good game. But like
I think that's what I thought as well.
I think it comes down to Ubisoft's financial problems. I think they just have to make cuts now. Like maybe definitely. That's where they are. They're at the point where it's like, all right, we need to, like Intel in the CPU space, like, we need to cull 15%, and we need to focus on these 3 games and these 3, Assassin's Creed, whatever, big franchises they need to hit, and they need to be massive. And Lost Crown was a critical darling. Like, people loved it that played it. Like, I really enjoyed it. Like, my only gripe with the game was that the story was kind of meh. Like, it was kind of just like, that's where it kind of like fell short. And because it really tried to like tell a story at the same time, and it was just convoluted. Like, I was just not interested. I'm like, this just like isn't fun. Like it deals with time travel in a way that was super interesting, and I think that they could have made a super interesting story, because where the game takes place is kind of like, it's like a time anomaly sort of place where it's like, time works there in a very different way. So like you bump into like a character that you came into the place with, and it's like, I haven't seen you in 15 years. Like, what are you talking about? Met you like just a week ago. So it has that really cool sort of like time paradox sort of stuff going, which I love.
Yeah.
But everything around it was kind of like, I felt squandered, like just uninteresting.
But
the gameplay carried the game. Like, the game was just so much fun to play that it was one of those experiences where you just don't care. Like, you're like, like
the gameplay is so smooth.
That's kind of cool.
That's just worth it.
That's dramatic, but I'm not emotionally invested in that, whatever the motivations or whatever else.
Fair enough. Well, the team, according to Insider Gaming's recent report, and I think it's from today as of recording. Oh no, sorry, yesterday, October 23rd. The new rumor, and according to Insider Gaming that has spoken to exclusive sources, unnamed, of course. So take this information as you will. The team behind The Lost Crown pitched a sequel, denied, and they pitched 2 DLCs, one of which was greenlit, and the second was denied. And then, according to, as soon as development for that DLC was finished, Ubisoft made it clear that it was just weeks after the game was released that these steps, there was not going to be another game released.
It's a shame, because it is a good game. Like, it's something that they could adapt to, like Assassin's Creed as well. Like, you could do that style of like Metroidvania with Assassin's Creed. But the thing is, like, Assassin's Creed was always kind of like the next version of Prince of Persia, really.
Oh, definitely. I mean?
Like, in a lot of ways, like, it's less fantastical. It's more grounded in stealth and and history and stuff like that. But it always felt like a sequel. So Prince of Persia would need to like pivot to be something different, like a side scroller or something more cartoony,
For
or
sure.
something like
According to this report from Tom, it would be Tom Henderson, right? Oh no, sorry, Grant Taylor Hill. The team behind the Lost Crown is now being deployed to work on an unannounced Rayman remake, which is something that we were actually talking about, I think, last episode or the episode before when we were discussing Ubisoft and their fall from grace. I think I might have briefly mentioned Rayman as one of their old school but very popular, one of my favorite games.
That seems like
released.
a gamble. That seems like a gamble to me now as well, right? Because Rayman hasn't been a thing for so long. It's like if there were, like, let's say you walked into, like a Rayman game came out like next month, would you buy it? Like, or would you be like, like I'm playing.
I'll wait till it goes
now.
on sale and then buy it.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like it's targeting
It's a
like
remake.
a market. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, they're squandering so many franchises. Like, why haven't we got another like a good Ghost Recon? Like, why don't we
I
have
agree
like
with that.
a Splinter Cell? Like they kind of like failed. Like one of the signs that I knew like didn't know what they were doing is like they released a game called Ghost Recon Wildlands, which was like it was like the largest open world in any game ever, right? But it was just like copy paste the icons, like take this out, do that, like all these little icons or bases, whatever you take out. You play a co-op and there's vehicles and stuff. But like where that game succeeded was that it was just a sandbox. You could fly helicopters, you could drive cars, and when you would set up shots, you'd be like, all right, coordinate like sniper attacks with like your group, and you had a fun physics system, so you could like create these chain of events, and like you could just create all this sort of fun in it, and it became like this huge hit, even though it was kind of reviewed only middling. And then their next Ghost Recon game, they doubled down into this, the Destiny-style gear score for your items, add RPG elements for guns. Like you got a shotgun that's gear score 50, and now, but you've leveled up, so that's useless. So you need to find the exact same gun that's got a different number attached, like just a arbitrary number attached to it. And then and so then that became a roadblock for the sandbox fun of the previous game. So it's like, well, what have you done? You've just gone into this random direction just because you think that's what people want, just because Destiny's popular now, or whatever's popular at that stage. And that was like 5-6 years ago now, or 4-5 years ago, whatever it was, and that franchise, that game was poorly received because of that direction that it took, and we haven't seen that franchise since.
Yeah, we've also got that. I think this links into what you were saying before about Ubisoft cutting costs given their current situation with Assassin's Creed Shadows delayed and the poor reception of Star Wars Outlaws. I don't think we're going to see another Ghost Recon for a while because of those reasons that you've outlined there. And if these rumors are true with the disbanding of this team and the reallocation of their resources onto Rayman, we are seeing a complete, and this is in line with all of the reporting that I've been doing about Assassin's Creed Shadows and the topics surrounding that, is Ubisoft is going through a complete restructuring. They're figuring out what they need, what they don't need, where they need to put people. And I really do hope that the conclusion is to release less titles and higher quality ones. And look, a title that could possibly be on the chopping block as well is XDefiant. Ubisoft announced that it was going to be giving at least 4 seasons of support for this, but the new rumors, according to industry insider and leaker Sean Weber, who posted on October 14th, Ubisoft's research team is reportedly actively asking their playtesters to host an in-house test session to gather new feedback on XDefiant. And according to the leaker, if play counts aren't increased, support for the title could be severed after Season 4. So that is another game that we are looking at support.
But that's always been, like a free-to-play shooter, and it's got the most... Like XDefiant, like, you know, with a big X, that just feels like the lamest name for a game. Like a try hard, sort of like, oh, look how cool that name is, XDefiant. Like,
Yeah. I
would you
think what
walk
we're
around with a
seeing
shirt
as a
where-
whole is just Ubisoft really taking
Chasing
a hard look at
trends.
themselves, and
Yeah,
I think it's
and we just-
deserved. And I think it's, I mean, they didn't do it by themselves, right? Shareholders were like, you need to have a look at what's going on here.
Part of it is like also as well, like, I mean, like, it's never simple, right? Like it's complicated when you got that many studios, that many franchises to be able to say like, okay, this is how we're going to have success, right? This is how we're going to grow or whatever. Like, it's never as simple. But with Ubisoft, it feels like almost simple because of the mistakes, right? You go that with the boat game,
Boat game? Odyssey.
It's like in your it's in your like it's in your like headline image, whatever it is. Ubisoft. Oh my god, I can't
Boat
remember.
game,
I forgot
Black
the
Sail.
name of it. Yeah, Skull and Bones.
Oh, Skull and Bones.
Yeah, that was in development for like a decade, right? And it flopped. But it was like it was never going to succeed. You had and you put so much money into it, and you could just tell like it was that project was never going to be a thing because they were just doing ship to ship combat that was just
Bland.
silly. Like it was just bland, yeah. Compared to like, you know, what Rare was doing with Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, which looks awesome.
And then you got the Avatar game. It's like, well, the Avatar movies make money, but nothing outside of the movies that's Avatar related has ever made money. Like that's basically, they're not pop cultural like touchstones,
Yeah.
let's say. So it's like that just seems like a massive gamble. The Star Wars game is like, yeah, it looks okay, but it's a bit unpolished. The characters, like some of them are just uninteresting looking, and it's bland.
Mid.
Yeah, it's mid. And it's like, well, if you're going to spend so much on that franchise and a big chunk of that money is going to go to Lucasfilm and you need to sell 10 million copies to break even or whatever the case is, that's just a number. I'm just guessing. But, you know, that's a huge risk. So it's like you've got to make sure you hit that. And then at the same time, you've squandered franchises like Splinter Cell and the Tom Clancy's, and then you're focusing on XDefiant and some battle like a number of battle royales.
Assassin's Creed.
And then you've got Assassin's Creed Shadows, which should have been
Slam dunk.
the easiest win ever because you got the team that I think one of their strongest teams working on it, and it's just not ready. And hopefully that extra time means that the game comes out in a much better state and something that's good. But you know, so much damage has been done. It just seems that like the point is that like you got all these like mistakes, and it's like, well, like why would you do all that? Like why?
Yeah.
What do you think is going on here? Like even like the Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, it should have been on Steam on day one. That's an indie game. It should have been optimized for Steam Deck. That you've locked out 1 million PC gamers just by not doing that. And you should have pushed it as like it should have been marketed as an indie game, but like a Ubisoft, you know, as in that sort of like cheap, fun to play, great mechanics, get into the hands of those, like, you know, like it just wasn't marketed right. I think like it.
Yeah, I agree with
it
that.
was just a missed opportunity. So like it's just a laundry list of things, and like, and now the problems are so big. It's like I mean, these are the same people that made all those decisions. Are they going to be able to right the ship, if you know what I mean?
I don't know. We're only able to sit back and watch what happens. Even though I do poke fun at Ubisoft a lot because, you know, they give me the ammo too. So that's just how this thing rolls. Like if Rockstar was doing the same stuff, and I have poked fun at Rockstar. So like anyone that is willing to flip and fall, I'm willing to laugh at. As you should.
Red Dead Redemption, the original, is coming to PC, but like at $50 or something like that. Whatever.
Yeah, that's fun. But we don't have enough time for that. But what we do have time for is Anonymous Sudan. Who's heard of Anonymous Sudan? I didn't until the DOJ arrested what they think is Anonymous Sudan. So the following are allegations from the US Department of Justice. So the US Department of Justice has alleged two brothers are behind the hacktivist group Anonymous Sudan. And this group is responsible for thousands of powerful DDoS attacks, which stands for distributed denial of service. And for those that most people have probably heard of a DDoS attack, but just a rudimentary understanding of what it is essentially you just flood a router. Like if I was to DDoS Kosta right now, I would flood a router with an immense amount of artificial traffic that would just either sever his connection or
Just
pretty much
overload it,
reduce it to a
basically.
halt.
Yeah, it just cannot deal with the amount of traffic. It's basically like just like an empty road.
Yep.
All of a sudden you've just dropped
40 million cars.
40 million cars, but they're all driverless and they're not moving.
Yep.
So
That's
it's just
essentially what it
basically, it's just like, okay, you've just created there's just no way for it. Like it's not even slow moving. It's just, you just add so many, like it's just, yeah.
And if you were downloading, I think another way to think about it is if you were downloading, say I get 100 megabit down here, so I downloaded about 12 megabytes per second. If Costa was DDoSing my home internet connection, I'd probably be downloading at like 300 kilobytes or 3 kilobytes on depending on how severe the attack is. So that's another way to think about it. Pretty much, yeah, the road analogy is it in a nutshell without getting into the nitty gritty of it all. But Anonymous Sudan, famous for it. God, they loved the DDoS attacks. They loved them until the Pentagon got involved. And now they're not very happy about what they've done, I'm guessing. But what has happened is the group targeted government agencies. See, that right there, I would have probably, like, if you were my brother and we're like, we knew how to DDoS, I would have been like, let's avoid the FBI, the DOJ, the Pentagon, and the FBI. Like, is that really where we want to send our attack power?
Yeah.
These guys did. They did. The charges by the DOJ outline the two Sudanese brothers are also responsible for a series of cyber attacks against Microsoft. See, that's who I would have targeted. I would have taken down Microsoft. I'm kidding. I don't know how to do any of that. Yeah, so Anonymous Sudan launched cyber attacks against Microsoft, OpenAI, Riot Games, PayPal, Steam, Hulu, Netflix, Reddit, GitHub, and Cloudflare.
Okay, so that's everybody.
Boy, oh boy, they were
Like Cloudflare is basically hosting like a big chunk of the internet, right?
That's the internet, dude. That's the internet.
And that's right.
They're
It's
like,
like,
let's take them down.
it's like taking down AWS, like,
Yeah.
like then it's over. Or like
Imagine
Google's
the size of the
DNS or
DDoS
whatever.
attack for you to bring down Cloudflare. Like, how many? What is the artificial traffic that you're sending, and where are you getting this from? It's like a botnet in the middle of the Ganges or whatever, wherever the hell it's coming from. Okay. Anonymous Sudan. A 22-year-old and 27-year-old were charged with one count of conspiracy to damage protected computers. One of the brothers was separately charged with 3 counts of damaging protected computers and an attempt to, quote, knowingly and recklessly cause death, end quote, after launching several cyber attacks at hospitals in retaliation for hospitals being bombed in Gaza. That is, I don't want to get into the geopolitics of all of that, but that is what he is being charged for. And if convicted of all charges, and this is what I found interesting, this brother will face a maximum sentence of life in federal prison, the most out of anyone that has been charged based on a DDoS attack. So yes,
Crazy.
There were several agendas that they had. They had their own agendas and their own ideologies against the United States and other Western countries. And they, what is the right word here? Boasted about
they were
their
selling
cyber
botnets
attack
as well.
exploits in Telegram. Performed more than 35,000 attacks. And of those 35,000 attacks, 70 were computers located in LA. And they also sold their hacking ability with a botnet with a power of, there you go, with a power of up to 2 terabytes, priced at $300 a day. I think you're going to need a little more to take down AWS, but you know, that's a good spot to start. No, it's this
crazy.
story. It's not something we typically cover. I just thought it was quite interesting that these guys are very young, 22, 20, and 27. They were just the amount of targets that they had, like the FBI, DOJ, Pentagon, FBI, Microsoft, OpenAI, Riot Games, PayPal, Steam, Hulu, Netflix, Reddit, GitHub, Cloudflare, and I haven't even finished here.
I don't like that's less political ideology than it is just down with. That's just pure anarchy, right? That's just like
Yeah, it was like they were attacking everybody.
That's just like down with everything, like whatever your idea of modern civilization is. Like, just
Yeah,
down
if
with
you,
it
it's
all.
like if you're in the way.
Oh, let's just interrupt all of it or whatever. You know what I mean? Let's cause some disruption. Let's just disrupt. Yeah, and that's kind of.
Yeah,
I mean?
they
But that's
said
like,
in my other story, I sliced it up into two, where I put some quotes in there. So this was one quote from the Telegram channel: "Is we declare cyber war on the United States. The United States will be our primary target." I'm guessing all of these were flagged by the DOJ and the FBI. And look, I reckon they're going to throw the book at them. This is something, especially if
this is always like like make an example. This is
absolutely.
This is like not even because you can't go light. I mean, if you obviously you play devil's advocate, you know, in either direction, if it's even if it's the United States government, but it's like, well, what do you do, right? Like if something like that, you would go for the maximum thinger, right? Like you got to set a precedent.
Yeah.
You got to set, like you would want to set like a precedent. You would want to send a message to anybody else.
For
that's thinking
sure.
about doing
Taking
it,
down
like,
hospitals with DDoS attacks, like in this story, it's actually quite sad in some ways because a lot of the patients were that were in these hospitals were required to move location to another hospital. It's like, well, now you're risking people's lives, etc., etc.
Yeah,
it's like
it's an eye for an eye doesn't work, right? It's
yeah,
like,
it leaves
well,
everyone blind.
You did this, so we're doing this. But especially when it's just like some random like hospital, that's like, you know, random things like that. It just like it's just pure
callous.
like anarchy, and it's callous, right? It's just like there's no. It's like, well, hey, this is this or this is. Whatever, like, and they mask it in whatever. Like, I mean, hacking traditionally, like, if you're going to take down, like, you know, let's say like a central bank or whatever, like, you're just pure anarchy and you're just a hacktivist in that sort of sense, where it's like anti-capitalism or whatever your ideology is, which is just like everything should be free and open and information, you know, like that classic 90s hacker mentality that is in movies too, right? Like, you know, that's how it was portrayed, and obviously the government doesn't like that because that means taking down, you know, the CIA's surveillance system or something like that. Which is like, you know, you like, you won't be like angry, but you're like, hey, CIA, get your surveillance on everybody back up and running. You know what I mean? I mean, so like you can portray it in that way where it's like, oh, these guys they're bad guys, but they're also kind of like cool in a sense. Whereas just like, let's hack it. When you like start doing you know, things like randomly, like hospitals or schools or like bomb threats.
You're looking. You're like
DDoS attacks to
in the Dark Knight, where
infrastructure or whatever.
No,
Like it's like middle of winter, and it's like let's want to cut out the gas and heating, so all these old people are now going to die.
Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's just not cool.
Yeah, it's definitely not cool.
Hey, yo, that's not cool.
These guys, I tell you what, bunch of scallywags.
What a bunch of jerks.
What a bunch of jerks. And you know what?
We'll
end the show on that note. Anonymous Sudan, you jerks. Stop hacking hospitals and Hulu. I need to watch my TV shows that I have bumps on my knees that I need checked. And I need to be able to go to the hospital. No, but in all seriousness, I'm glad that they are not just, you know, attacking everything. And yeah, we'll end the show there. Thank you very much for listening. As always, all of the stories that we talked about in today's episode are in the description below in a Google Docs link, and some extras in there that we may or may not have got to. Some follow-up reading. Kosta has a lot of reviews that he's going to get through, so we'll probably go through some of them on next week's episode, but you'll be done with a good chunk of them by the time. And yeah, we'll just briefly go over that, and then we might do, maybe next week we'll talk over some of our latest review products, because I've got through a few of my monitors, and right now I'm testing the Corsair Xenon. It's a ultra wide 3440 by 1440 240 hertz OLED, and it is gorgeous. So
you got the
probably by
Xenon. Is that the
next
Xenon
week.
Flex?
What was that? Sorry.
That's not the Flex, is it?
No, it's not the Flex. No.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It's white as well, which is my favorite.
Sweet.
That sounds crazy. I like other colors as well, by the way. I'm just saying.
What are you saying? White power? What's that?
All right. No. Okay. All right. Let's just wrap this bad boy up here. All right. Thank you very much for listening, guys. We'll be back next week with another jam-packed week of news. See you later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.